Blessings. Yo, balance your energy. Balance your masculine and your feminine. No matter if you're male watching the video, you know, it's balance the feels and the emotions of you and the strength and endurance of you, because that's all we are here to learn is the balance of ourselves, because we learn first off on how to be balanced when it comes to our parents, right? Balance ourselves on whether we should be happy or sad with our sisters and brothers, our cousins, our uncles and aunts and shit, right? But when it comes to those that truly aren't balanced, the shit I call the males, right? The ones that want the princess treatment, and then there's the females that want the knight in shining, well, that are the knight in shining armors, where they are more masculine than feminine. They will demand, that you treat them correctly, you provide for them, where the male in their princess treatment wants the catering. They want to be treated just as fluffy as the title and shit. Whereas the feminine in her masculine getting the shit done, and the masculine balancing his feminine side, where he is getting it all done. He knows the touch and feels of everything around him, and knows that the feminine in her masculine is to be built up more so than taken away from. Whereas, man, I call the females in their masculine that is very demanding, very privileged to be a feminine, but very bitter about being a feminine. It's the bitterness of having to put on to be a feminine, but provided for to stay a feminine, because not to be provided, they really can't provide for themselves. Whereas the masculine and their feminine that wants to be the princess is the unbalanced one, because they're balanced by other people more so than themselves. They can't balance their own emotions. They can't balance their decisions without anyone else giving the directions as to which way they should stand. They can't shed a tear because that makes them feminine. They can't show emotions, because that'll show that they're too much of a wuss or a punk. You're too feminine, when in truth, that's what you need to be balanced within you. But some people will pull that from you and replace it with their bitterness or anger, their definition as to who you should be, in order to confuse you. You're supposed to balance out your feminine and your masculine to know what strengthens you and how you can actually hold yourself up to hold you. Whereas some people besides you, on both sides of you, will teeter-totter on your emotions in order to keep you off your balance. It's letting you know that no, you can't hug because that shows emotion. That's too feminine of you. Whereas most males, most men, a lot of men needs hugs. They really do need the fucking love, but they're so toughened up where love feels like it's a trap more so than it's an actual feeling and emotion to actually accept, right, and submit to. Whereas it'll show them to love themselves. Whereas the feminines that's in the masculines that are the privilege to feel as though they need to take that love and toughen up, the provider, in order for them to stay up and be angry just to keep providing, is the one that's already broken, because they can't provide for themselves without breaking anybody around them. Those are the type that will try to humble and break the feminine in her masculine that's already doing her thing, and will do nothing more than to de-emasculate or emasculate, what's the word? Belittle and sun the masculine that balances both his feminine and masculine ways, because he is not providing for the privileged feminine in her masculine ways. As they even kill when it comes to the balancing of masculinity and your femininity. You're in charge of it to balance you. Whereas some people will manipulate you into believing you are one way or another and how you should be for them more so than yourself. Not all knows the definition of you more so than you define you. But when it comes to when it comes to balancing both sides of you, the feminine and the masculine sides of you, you have to be careful as to who is actually trying to help you who's adding to you. Because most will keep you in your feminine more so than actually add to your feminine. Add to your masculinity, especially if you're a male. Some females in their masculinity will break a male down into his feminine and stay there in a way where his masculinity will scream for control of himself because he's been so broken down by the masculine feminine. Because, wow, that is so sad. Because of her own lack to provide for herself. Whereas she will do the most to poke holes at the feminine that's in her masculine getting the shit done. Because her masculine energy and her feminine is angry. Because there's no softness to that masculinity. There's a roughness to it. Whereas the feminine, using her masculine energy to build herself up, is just as soft as she's making the masculine to stay in his feminine, just so that she can continue to use him for what he is there for, but to keep him in the feminine. Wow. It's a switch of roles. So it's no surprise when a masculine is in his feminine that wouldn't want nothing more than to break down a feminine in her masculinity, because of the fact that he can't really scream at the one that's breaking him down. You know what, the most I got you. Have a good one. Bye. Damn.